Welcome to another episode of the Odyssey Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Mullally. This is a Comedia podcast. My guest today is a fellow by the name of Koree Davies. His company is High Performance Management.
That's it.
And he's a coach both in the mindset space and also in the personal training space. And we've got him on today to talk a bit about that, but also about his journey and learn a bit from that experience. So, Koree, I want to welcome you to the show. Thanks for coming along, man.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be on the other side of it.
Never
been interviewed, so this is cool.
Yeah, I'm glad because I had a super fun time being a guest on yours, and I think I've been trying to get you on ever since. And so good.
I think this is the third try. Because when was it? We had two others.
I thought it was only the second, but
second sounds better. Let's stick with that.
Yeah, let's do that. No, but yeah, like super glad that you could come along, man.
That's cool.
Like usually I just like to start with because like pretty much what this podcast is about is like exploring people's journey, and like you're a coach yourself, and I guess at what point did you know and decide that you did want to be a coach, Koree?
It's a good question because I feel like as you're on your journey of any type of success, you hear focus on one thing, don't spread yourself too thin. And honestly, up until like 6 weeks ago, I was spreading myself too thin and probably doing everything. Yeah, so like I would say I'm like fully committed as of like 6 weeks ago. But I've been creating content and coaching people one-on-one since like 2020. But the reason I say I switched is because I was studying chiropractic. So obviously having that as my main focus now, I'm not doing it. And now it's just, I'm doing this 100%. So I would say definitely 100% full in now.
Yeah, great.
But I have technically, been coaching and doing mindset since 2020.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And I mean, this is awesome because it's sort of like of a recent vintage, I guess, of like, what made you make that switch then of saying like, I'm all in, like 6 weeks ago?
I mean, like the reason I was at uni, in the beginning was I wanted to be a chiropractor and like change the world and heal people. Right. As time went on, I realized I just loved learning. It's one of my top values is learning, growth, personal development, mindset, human behavior. And I've always been about that since my early days in sales where I started to understand psychology, body language. And so I just really have always been obsessed with it. And like as time went on in the education system, I kind of just found myself, I just don't like being told what to do. Like I like learning, but it's kind of very like all over the place, creative and like at certain periods of time. And if anything, I find because there's no like outline of like or curriculum to study, I'm actually learning even more at a more efficient way because I'm doing it in my own way rather than like through a structure that's forced onto me. Yeah. I suppose that's kind of, I got to a point in uni where pretty much last year I was like, no, I'm done. I failed a unit and I was like, no, I'm done. In the units, it's like very specialized. So that one unit I couldn't do again for another year till next year's intake. So I was like, all right, came up to it beginning of this year and I was like, all right, no, I'm done. And then like at midnight, I was like, no, I'm going to re-enroll. So I had that, like, I was still having that split moment between like committing to my goals and dreams and like doing this kind of path that was already paved in front of me. And so, it was kind of at that moment, I re-enrolled in the unit that last time. I was like, and I said, this is going to be my last time. I'm going to try it. So like, it was kind of my send off. It just kind of fell apart. Like I did it all. I actually ended up forgetting to go into my exam because I was trying to do this live event. I don't know if you saw me do.
Yeah, we're going to talk about
my podcast and, a bunch of other stuff. And realistically, I was just looking at I'm just doing the things I like. And so that's kind of what happened. I was doing chiropractic, stopped, and now it's just I get to do this fully. Even in my language, I can tell it's aligned because I said I get to.
Like the way you show up and everything, it all flows through. Yeah.
So I don't know what the original question was. No, it's going to happen consistently.
I forgot because I was just listening. But
long story short, I've been doing chiropractic since 2018. Trying to make it work. Like it really just felt like I was hitting a brick wall the whole time. I've always hated school, honestly. I just like learning. I'm a big nerd, which you'll find out as well as we go further on,
And essentially like the way you sort of phrased it as far as like, I think you said something along the lines of the way you learn is different to what is, I guess, for lack of a better word, like imposing you through like certain schooling systems. Like it reminds me of think it's that Mark Twain quote. It's like, don't let schooling get in the way of your learning.
100%.
I think I just go like nothing against schooling, but I'm just meaning that we learn in different ways, and it sounds like.
And honestly, I still don't even know how I learned. So in saying that, it could have been an excuse. Maybe I just like didn't do well at school. But I don't know. I'm always learning. You know, always reading, always listening to podcasts. I don't really listen to music anymore. So it's just like constant random stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you brought it up just before, and I forget the title of it now. The event you just spoke at, is it the leaders?
Well, actually, I didn't speak at it. It's something I was creating.
Oh,
I was going to be speaking at it. Again, culmination of spreading myself too thin, and prioritizing the wrong things meant that I had to push that back. So that's happening in October now, or maybe November. I've got to set the date. Again, learning experience, trying to run an event by myself. Future Leaders Summit for everyone listening.
Yeah, I thought it was.
So Future Leaders Summit, I essentially just took what I was doing in my podcast, got all the people that I thought were inspiring, and like made my own personal development seminar, because I like 7 years ago or 8 years ago, I think it's longer than 8 years. Personal development saved my life essentially, and so having those events where you went to and you meet people, and it's like, I guess even me and you met through that same way, right?
That's it. Yeah.
I see there's a gap in the market. So from both a business point of view and like a trying to impact in society point of view, I can see there's this gap where personal development for younger people needs to be there. Because like there's Tony Robbins, everyone knows Tony, you know, but at some point, probably in the next 5 to 10 years, like he'll keep going, but there's going to be room for people who are more relatable to, you know, the new generation coming up. And also things have changed. Like Rich Dad Poor Dad, you know, like investing in real estate is not necessarily the one way to be financially free now. It's like one tool. Yeah. And I know, I think that's an interesting conversation point, is going down what the creator content market looks like now. A lot of people are freelancing, trying to make money online, and that's a whole other space. But
yeah, that's right. And like you said, like you mentioned, the relatability as well. Like a lot of that comes down to like lived and shared experience, like which obviously someone being closer in age to you, like yourself, like is going to be a lot more
100%
relatable. And I guess like, so what you're saying is that event was more or less a way to take what you're doing in the podcast and create like a live version of that.
100%. Yeah, I mean that'd be amazing. Like if anyone knows Grant Cardone, he's got the 10x growth comp, big inspiration.
Oh, mate, one of the guys who's been on the podcast is a big Cardone.
Oh, really? Love him. 10x.
I always joke with him. I'm like, oh, you're not 10xing your life, man.
Oh, it's so funny. No, he's so over the top. But like for me, I listen to it like the Bible. I listen to his Be Obsessed to Be Average. Like every day.
I'll introduce you to this guy.
Okay, let's go. We're at 20x.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, that's wicked, man. One thing like I've picked up, and you've said it twice, like around like spreading yourself too thin, and I'm really keen to ask you about that, as far as because you obviously you've gone through that process. It's something you're learning about. What's your advice to people around prioritizing so that you're not spreading yourself too thin, based on like your own experience? And then also like I imagine it's something that with your clients you're dealing with a lot. Yeah,
I mean, like honestly, I'm still it's always a work in progress. I wouldn't even say I've accomplished it yet, but I've become aware, and like this is a recurring thing. Even in my own podcast, when I interview these successful people who are doing much better than me, it's an awareness, self-awareness about not just yourself, but how you already are acting, but then also how you're going to react in like future circumstances. And essentially this is like the whole model that I teach my clients, and what I've put together now in my new program, which will be coming up in a little bit, but I use like a 3-tier method, which combined together will mean that you consistently achieve results without burnout. And so I said, essentially burnout can be, I say that burnout's a symptom of not living aligned and not living within these 3 areas that these pillars you could say, that I kind of work together. So to answer your question about like how I can not spread myself thin, I don't think it's necessarily of like spreading yourself thin, but like spreading yourself to the right areas that in your mind's eye at least, and in your like everything is aligned within your values, beliefs, your actions, daily plans. And so like I use, like I said, this 3-tier approach. Number 1, vision of yourself, understanding what it is you even want to work towards, which is a very big question in itself. Yeah. That's a whole podcast there. But journaling, understanding my own thoughts, then creating a vision, action plans, 90 days, 3 months, up to a year, 5 years, 10 years. And then what DiMartini says, it's like 100 years and, 1,000 years in the future or whatever. Yeah. But vision, tools and technique of the mind, which everyone listening, that's how I met Jeremy. We're doing the NLP. Those type of techniques, limiting beliefs, state changes, self-talk, reframing, because we're going to inevitably run into problems and obstacles. And if you don't have the right tools and you revert back to old identity and old behaviors and old thought patterns, you're going to have the same actions and outcomes. And so not just having a vision, being delusional and not doing anything because your mind is in the gutter. So you might have this amazing plan, but if you get derailed and you're just super emotionally volatile because you haven't got the right perceptions and right tools in place to manage that, it doesn't really matter, and you're pretty much doing nothing. And the third is health optimization, which I know this is the biggest thing for everyone listening. Me and Jeremy we've been training for a long time, and it's like the most important thing is health optimization, and that's ultimately my long-term vision, which is aligns with why I was doing chiropractic.
Yeah, like again, that's that value coming through.
Yeah,
from what
100%. So typically, but reining it back to the question, I find once you've got a hold of those three things, it's a matter of your day filling up with the highest priority actions that you can take. And like everyone knows the feeling, like when you do something that you like truly love, like you could finish your 9-to-5 job and like some people it's gaming, for example, and you just randomly get energy. Like it's spontaneous. You don't have to think about it. And so living a life that's designed around that is how you don't really spread yourself thin. But again, it comes from
that burnout that you mentioned,
And again, burnout is symptoms. I use that as a marketing thing just to be like, so people understand. But burnout's a symptom. Everything's feedback and mechanisms that you can realign yourself. So that's how I think about it.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Yeah. I want to ask you about the gym because, like, again, like obviously big,
huge,
gym,
mate.
Yeah. It's like. And I'm glad that the cameras can't see underneath because, like if we compared our calves, I'll come out on the bad end of that
on the top,
on that comparison. So
it's us short kings, we're right.
Fellow manlet, so it's all good here. But no, like I know, like the gym has been a big impact on your life, like you have just mentioned. But like bodybuilding in particular, as far as actually competing, I want to ask you about like when you first went to compete, because I know it was like a big sort of turning point in your life.
I mean, I'd been wanting to compete for ages. Like I started like doing exercise and things like since I was a kid. Like I did soccer from age 6. Did that for a few years. I did skateboarding. Used to do little comps at the skate park and skated for a long time as well. Did taekwondo. So I've always been really like into fitness and the mind and mental discipline. And then as I got into high school, I started doing like push-ups and pull-ups, and there's a lot of calisthenics that I was like just obsessed with. So I started like, how the fuck do I do a muscle up? Because it's impossible. So hard. And I remember I was like that weird kid in like year 8 and 9. Everyone would be playing like sports, and I'd be like on the monkey bars, like doing pull-ups, and like I've always just been about that. And so when I was finally old enough to be able to go to the gym, I think like I first started going with my dad to like a Snap Fitness in Bedford, if it's still there, I don't know. We started going like 14, 15 and go like after hours. And then, I remember my 15th birthday, I was finally able to go by myself in staffed hours. Yeah. And so I would just start going like every day after school. And that was like my place, like I lived, and I pretty much trained 6 days a week, 7 days, I think even. I just didn't even like think like occur to me again, because I was living a line. Really looking back now, at the time I was just wanted to like get bigger.
Want to get big,
huge, man. But in those times, in those early days, I was following all these YouTubers like Christian Guzman, Matt Ogers, Chris Jones, like from Physiques of Greatness, and they were all bodybuilding inspired, and they just had like sick physiques, and you're like, no way, that's like insane. So I've followed bodybuilding for like a long time too. Like I actually like Nick Strength and Power. There's a guy named Louis Marco, if you remember like early bodybuilding.
I don't remember him.
He was like the original
Elliot Holmes, mate.
Elliot Holmes. He's going to be interesting now.
He has.
He has. I know his philosophies are okay, but it's interesting.
Yeah, questionable.
He's got like this man conference.
He does, yeah. I checked in on him like probably last year. Like I'm like, what's happened to Elliot?
Yeah. See, I don't know how Andrew Tate got cancelled and he's still going around. Like they're pretty similar.
Yeah, they are. I think that's another conversation. But like,
besides the point,
like so you've been following it for a long time.
I do love bodybuilding, like the art of it, sculpting your body and the posing. I've just been obsessed with. It's kind of weird. Like it is weird. Like you just stand in the mirror, like, but like I don't know what it was. I just liked it. I like the like how everyone's unique in their genetics and certain exercises, rep ranges, weights. Like you could craft like this physique that you could portray in a certain way. And then I did my first competition. I was like, 2019, I think 2019. Yeah. Which I do want to compete again, but 2019 I did, came fourth, so still got that chip on my shoulder. I need to win.
I experienced the same thing. I'm like, no.
It's just shit. It was fun though. I enjoyed it actually a lot.
Yeah. And like, was it a big? Because like from my own experience, it sounds like very parallel into the sense of like it always been in the back of my mind competing.
Yeah.
But what was it for you that I guess initiated like I'm doing this, like committing to it? What was it for you?
I literally, everyone around me online, that was all the content I was consuming was bodybuilding. At the time I was I worked at a gym. I was doing sales, so for like 3 years I worked in a gym, Bailey Fitness, and like that's where I met like my PT who was getting me ready for the comp, Tom Stanley, who just had a sick physique. And then
I've not met him, but I'm familiar with him. I know Tom.
And I've seen his journey. Like he was a few years older, so like when I was like 18, he was in there. I think he was like 21. I think we were 3 years apart. But just see him like working, and I was like, I saw him compete heaps of times, and I was like, no, I want to give it a crack. So I went through him, so just everyone around me was there, and I guess there's like, I've always been kind of a competitive person. Like, I did, like I said, soccer. I did gridiron as well. Like, But bodybuilding is like the ultimate competition against yourself, really. Even though it's down to judges. It is just you versus you ultimately. And then that's what I liked about it. It's like, it's kind of like fucked up. It's like David Goggins, like trying to push yourself, especially those last 6 weeks. Like, that's just another level. Like if you can go through that, 100%. It was more so like I wanted to test myself rather than like any other thing. Like I wasn't even like, I want to win. It was like I just want to like see how hard this is. Because you know what it's like at the end when you're doing like 60 minutes Stairmaster, you're eating and like you still got to battle the hunger.
For me it was like that, and I think we spoke about this on your podcast. Like it was it was coming to the awareness of like being in terrible moods, but not realizing it's because you're like actually starving, and it would be a case of like things that never used to like annoy me or like my fuse was like infinitely shorter. And it'd be a case of like, and I remember when it happened, I was like I literally just asked myself the question, like, why am I so like awful? I'm like, it's because you're on like 1,600 calories, Jeremy. Like, it's like, that's why. And then once I realized that, I'm like, okay, just remind yourself that when you're feeling that next time. And then all of a sudden it's not so bad. But
the whole like insight into how your mood's affected by food was massive for me, because after that I realized, how many times have I just been under eating?
And
how many people,
or even just like poor dieting, not necessarily under eating, but just like the things you're eating aren't quality food or whatever,
because there's like a point along comp where you're not like, you're like 12 weeks out, 14 weeks out, you've maybe been dieting for about 8 weeks, and you're like you're cleaned up the diet. At that point, like I had so much energy. I was like, fuck, is this like what eating like clean does to you? And so that's like kind of built the big foundation for like doing it now. Because there's also other times where I've been super lean, but like mindset was shit. Had no vision. So I was like abusing substances. And it's like, I was the best I ever looked, but like the worst mentally. The most inconsistent in anything else but like the gym. So that's kind of built that foundation for me as well, of like trying to achieve consistent results in like multiple areas, not just like one.
Okay. And like, I guess out of all of that, like what has been the biggest things that you've taken from the gym and bodybuilding? Like, how does that translate into those other areas? Like when you talk about being consistent and things like that. Like, what are some of the things you've learned and applied to other areas of your life?
Question. I think that over time everything becomes a habit, and good or bad. And I'm at a point now where I don't really have to think about the gym, and like that's given me insight into other areas. Like, what else am I not thinking about? Like, because I hear like people, it's hard to go to the gym. Like for me, it's not hard. Yeah. And I'm like, it's hard. Like the next hard for me is like pushing larger weights and like
doing like something like a crazy workout.
But like getting there is easy, and I think like I don't know where I'm going with this, but like it's hard to when you're unaware of things that you're doing, and like I guess like the thing I get from the gym is like a presence as well. So like understanding that like if everything's off in my life, but then I'm still like going to the gym and like I'm tracking it, because there's been times, well, I don't know if you do this, where like you'll go to the gym and you kind of you're just going to the gym.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like especially because I know you've trained for a long time. You probably get it. You just like you like subconsciously know the weights, and I know I can progressively overload, and I like know like what weight and rest time, but then it's not like dialed in. And I think like going to the gym and like when things are sliding off in my other areas, it would normally start from in the gym, and I'll be like, okay, I'll start dialing this in again.
So is that almost like your like North Star in a way? Like in a sense, like it's a way for you to like calibrate the rest of your life. Yeah. That's really interesting.
Well, because like that's why it's like the first thing I do with people is to get them in the gym or go to like do, even if they're not in the gym, like doing a structured home workout where they're aware that they're increasing in progress. Yeah. Like and then like giving like proprioceptive cues as well. Like, oh, what do your joints feel like? Are they stronger? Are they tighter? Is it like less sore? Yeah. Like using that, you're right, as a North Star, transitions to all the other areas. I think, that's probably the biggest thing. Like, I could say something cool like, oh, yeah, it teaches you to do hard things. No, but like, I don't think of it that way.
No, like, and because it is good coming from someone who like, I think we're very similar in the way, like, no one has to tell us to go to the gym. Yeah. Like, it's very much like having a shower for me. Like it's just like it's a part of my not that I'm doing it daily, but like it's a part of my like weekly routine. Like and I know like I've got to do this week, and it's like and I look forward to it too. Like I genuinely do look forward to most workouts and stuff. So it's interesting hearing from your perspective like how that actually plays a role like for all the other areas of like. This is if this is wrong, then everything else is going to be wrong. Yeah,
because like I love Andrew Huberman says it is that you can't control the mind with the mind. It's like you've got to take control of the body, because then it's trying to control your mind is like trying to look through fog and like grasp at nothing. Whereas like you like if you're like your thoughts are rushing, or like you're uncertain about something. And you just like going down this old like behavior rabbit hole. As soon as you go to the gym or go for like a 35-minute walk, I don't know, something happens. You just like you get grounded again with like what's true.
Yeah, like and like even you're right. Like it doesn't have to be something extreme as like squatting 200 kilos.
No,
like
actually, I don't even like doing that now.
What's that?
Sorry? I don't even like doing that now.
Oh, you don't like squatting generally, or just
like super heavy stuff. Like
right.
Yeah, I know. Just more about just getting the blood flow and like progressively overloading, but not like
not going nuts.
I don't know.
No, but my point was that like it doesn't have to be something as extreme as that. Like you said, like something as simple as like like a walk, like a 20-minute walk, can actually really clear your mind and your thinking and everything. Like I mean, experientially, and I know there's a lot of studies around it. Not that I've read them or anything like that, but we were talking about vision and all the things that go around that, and obviously a big part of that is goals. And I know you've talking about goals before, but I've heard you say that SMART goals are BS, bullshit. I'm just curious to hear why is that, and what's your sort of approach to goals and goal setting? Because it's something that it's always a battle for me. Like practically setting goals, and I'm sure other people as well have have difficulty doing it. What's your sort of approach to?
Yeah, so that video you're referring to, again, it was kind of just a tongue-in-cheek, like obviously smart goals are not bullshit, but the part I was referring to was the realistic part. Because that big philosophy comes from the book, The Magic of Thinking Big. And it's the whole idea that if I say set a goal of achieving X amount plus 1, for example, and and the macro belief, I'll step back, is that you'll never exceed your highest expectation. You always fall short. I think like Viktor Frankl, I watched a video the other day about it. He's talking about like when you're trying to land with like a massive draft pushing you to the left, you have to aim ahead for you just to end up where you're meant to go.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same with goal setting. You're never ever going to end up exactly where you go, but you can point the direction to it. And so being realistic is kind of, in most people anyway that I've talked to, being realistic stems from a bunch of things that have happened in their life that they've attached meaning to that will limit exactly what they can do. So when they say realistic, it's not realistic. It's setting a parameter based on their past experiences. And I think if you can break through that and set something like larger, crazy goal, and then if you fall short from that, it's still much better than if
you'd gone the other route and set like an under, like what's the word, like under targeted or
underachieve. Yeah. Again, or Grant Cardone, he's like overcommit, over deliver. That's what he says, right? Never undercommit, over deliver, because then you're like not backing yourself.
Yeah,
it's an easy way to be like, oh, at least I didn't try. Like I set a small goal. Yeah, but again, I know now. I've matured a bit since that video, 6 months ago. Massive difference.
Yeah. No, man, I'm calling you out on everything you said in your life.
I have come to the realization though that like this path of like trying to do something that's different isn't for everyone. Like there's heaps of times where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why can't I just go get a job? Like I could just, like I've done sales for 10 years. I'll just go get a nice cushy job and like invest in a house and like in the S&P 500 and like when I'm 50 something, have a few million. But I don't know, like I'm just not doing that. And like this path I'm on is so uncertain and like not clear because I'm creating it. It's from up here that there's a lot of times where it's like, is this worth it? Is it worth it? And it's like in relation to that goal, like that it's an extreme view. That's what I realized because all the people I'm listening to, they're not normal. Like most of the people that are around me now are doing things not what the average person's doing, and like that way of thinking about setting goals probably for someone that's just starting isn't the best. But I think there's still a lesson where if you would never, it's a good way to push yourself harder. And I guess that goes to the gym as well. Like I probably need to push myself harder in retrospect now speaking about it. But talking about that's why having tools and techniques of the mind is important because you can set
like for those goals.
Because the thing is, if you set a massive goal, you're really going to stretch your identity, and there's going to be so many comfort zones that are like will make you have these feelings of anxiety and like uncertainty. And when you're in those, when you're feeling those feelings and you let it affect your state of mind, it's going to affect your actions. And then that's normally when people fail or perceive that they fail. And so that's why it's like a combination of not just having a goal, but it's having like a goal that's aligned with your values that you can take action on and measure it and maybe hopefully have people accountable, holding you accountable to it, like in a mastermind or some close friends. But then also knowing that because you've set a larger goal, you're going to come across different obstacles, and it's being able to realize that when you feel those feelings and being able to deal with it and like transmute it into something that's going to be in the most optimal resourceful state that you can, achieve those goals. That's kind of the whole foundation of like my philosophy and like high performance management.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I think a big chunk of that as well, which you just touched on, was do you think it's really important to have not just the people around you, but I guess, and hence why like you mentioned you're consuming like loads of podcasts and audiobooks and things like that, like what you're consuming and then the people you're surrounding yourself with, like what kind of impact does that have on like when you are setting these big ambitious
massive
goals?
Because especially if you're setting a goal and you're around people that aren't setting goals like that, it sounds retarded. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, don't do that. It's like, I like the analogy and talking about like the people around you. It doesn't just have to be people. It's the foods you eat. It's the things you think. And the things you think are transported to you via information in your external world. And So obviously you can't control everything, but that's where being aware comes in, because even like people at work, there might be a person at work that says certain things that at first you might be like, oh, that's terrible. I never want to think like that. But then like, it's kind of like a frog. You put into like boiling water, it will jump out immediately.
Yeah.
But if you like and you're like cooking it, make a stew, a beef casserole or frog casserole, that's when you'll become, cooked in the brain. No.
Like it starts to influence you.
Yeah, 100%. So, but the reason I'm so hardcore on that now is because, again, this is probably the reason I'm doing personal development, is I obviously not obvious. When I was younger, I was on suicide watch, tried to kill myself, and had some terrible depression and social anxiety, and all stemmed from that stuff. And like innately, I always had terrible self-talk. And like, I guess it's good now because it helps me like push harder. But like, I could never like really control my thoughts, which is what pushed me into mindset. And I would, as I become more aware of my own thoughts, I realized that it was my own thoughts making me feel depressed and putting me in these states and making me choose these decisions that made me feel better, because my thoughts and, how I thought about myself, my self-esteem, how that was making me feel. And so that's where I was like, okay, if I can't change my thoughts, and like especially the friends around the time we're talking, you're typically, the people around you are also a reflection of yourself. So, it's kind of just this big like hot box of thoughts. I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to start listening to people that do think positively. I don't know where that came from, but like, I think it started in the gym, right? I was in the gym, started watching videos on like how to increase my bench. And then the suggestions on YouTube, it's like 5 a.m. CEO, day in the life. This is in like 2013. And like, then I just, by association, like the gym, started seeing people that were on average, most successful people are also quite healthy, or they're conscious of their health. So I started seeing these videos and I was like, oh, well, I'll just listen to these guys. And, so I came along with people like Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard. I think those are the two main ones.
Yeah. And then
Robin Sharma.
Cardone later.
Cardone came a bit later, more business, but like mindset wise was definitely those guys.
Yeah.
And I just was like absolutely absorbed in it every single day. I would like, nothing else touched my brain but that. And so over time, even if it wasn't my own thoughts, I was being influenced via information.
Yeah.
And then that's when I stopped listening to the news, stopped listening to literally anything else but like things that were conducive to my success. And then now that's transitioned into even the people I'm like friends with. And it's just like this constant state of growing and cycles, and you get better, and like you got to challenge your old beliefs to get the new beliefs and let it go.
Yeah, and then you got like, you're progressing.
Yeah, so, but that was like the big thing is I couldn't control my own thoughts, and I was in this constant state of being like in a depressed state of mind. And it was painful, honestly, like constant anxiety, like heart palpitations, like terrible. And so it's over time, years, it's not something you can measure like in the gym. I just made a post on that too, like, it's not something you can measure mindset really until maybe 3-4 years later, when something happens, like an event, and I can tell that I reacted, but then I chose to not react. And it's like a weird like mental game. But that's the importance of the people, the music, even the TV shows. Like I started watching Power. If anyone's watched it, it's like a crime show. 50 Cent made it. Oh, right. I love it. It's so good. Peaky Blinders.
Is that recent, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I found even just watching that, like the influence of it is kind of negative. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should, even this is something I should audit. The TV shows, crazy. Maybe I'm, I don't know, skits, I don't know. But yeah, like, I'm like hyper aware of it.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Like, but it sounds like from when you were younger, because you kind of, without knowing, came to a realization that it was the people you're surrounding yourself with, like what you're listening to, the thoughts that you're allowing to enter. Like, would it be fair to say, like, if that hadn't dawned on you, like, your life would be very different now?
I mean, I also think everything, like, everyone's on like a unique journey. So, like, I feel like I would have ended up here. Yeah. It's just the time in which you get there.
It might have been a little later.
Yeah. Like, I think we're all have like a unique endpoint that we're meant to be doing, meant to impact someone, blah, blah, blah. How you get there is like different, right? But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've always kind of had like some type of drive. you know?
Yeah. So yeah, maybe it was just always there and it was dormant, and then something.
Like, I think I it's hard to say because like I was listening to this quite young, you know, like I had like a dichotomy of these ultra negative thoughts and addiction patterns, but then like I was listening to personal development. So
yeah, so that was a bit of
you know what? Yeah, I probably, like I said, personal development did save my life. Like I probably wouldn't have, if I never came across it. Yeah, I could probably say I probably wouldn't be actually.
Yeah.
Take that back.
Okay. No, it's
had to have a think about
it's
it.
very powerful. But I want to jump into like I guess the way you work with your clients because you're very unique as far as what I've experienced anyway. Like you're probably the only person I know who has that that connection between mind and body. In that sense that like you do have the like that personal training aspect, but then also the mindset aspect that we've been talking about a lot today. Like just tell us a bit about what that approach is and how you came to have that connection between the two.
Yeah, definitely. The name of my program is Momentum, and it's all about momentum. Like we live in the laws of the universe, and it governs every single molecule to planetary, you know, models, right? And so the idea about momentum is like overcoming that initial inertia, which requires force. And normally people who feel like helpless are not moving. And a phrase that comes to me that kind of relates is the more you do, the less you do, the less you do. And you have to like really listen to that. And typically people who are depressed, even just if you were to mathematically graph it out and what speed and acceleration they are would be slower. It'd be harder to overcome inertia if you're in a slower position. And so to answer your question, the reason mind and body is so important is that you need to be moving both like physiologically and mentally, because both together is going to create this momentum, right, on the outside. What that looks like is, for example, if you're not working out and you're kind of in this like dormant cycle of like nothingness, nothing is zero, right? You got to start moving up, and something as simple as like push-ups in the morning, 5 push-ups, and then the next day you do 6. It's literally like if you're graphing it from 5 to 6, it's an increase up. It's some type of unit measurement move forward.
Yeah.
And so like the gym is that. So it's not just like, oh, we're going to the gym and losing weight. It's like, what type of weights did you do and what rest period time and like how does it feel? And these are all like measurable things that you can, like I said, mindset's not really, you can't really measurable. It's not tangible. There's nothing you can go off of. But in the gym, you can see, oh, last week I did this amount. And so that's like the first thing. It's like if you start getting momentum, you're like, oh, I can do something. Like from nothing to I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Like 1 push-up is better than 0 push-ups type of deal. Like 1% better every day. So like the combination of the two is super important because, again, same in my life. If I'm not moving, like you're not growing, you're dying. And so if I'm not moving and expending energy, it's going to be like atrophying both in the mind and the body. And so also alongside that, when we're doing mindset work and you've got limiting beliefs and you have perceptions about the world that you're trying to change, just by exercising, this is why I exercise as well. I don't really talk about it in content, but the science behind it is you increase brain-derived neurogrowth factor, you increase oxygenation. There's a whole bunch of things you upregulate in the body, but the main thing is that brain-derived neurogrowth factor. And so that's why even listening to a book while working out is amazing because you're exercising and you've got this increased capacity to make new synapses in the brain, wire and fire new neurons at a much more efficient rate than if you don't. And so just by exercising and listening to new knowledge, that's what I do. You're going to learn better. But, you know, that in its sense is kind of why mind and body is super important because there's like the physiological side, metaphysical side of movement, but then, you know, also the mindset side, and they do coexist. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah, and it sounds like that approach to it, in a sense, because there isn't a tangible way to, like you said, measure the mindset progression or lack of progression for that matter. By measuring the parts that of movement and the body
Yeah.
that you are measuring, you are in a way like hacking that in a way, like you're actually finding a way to measure the mindset progression, right? Is that fair to say?
Definitely. Like you're getting dopamine hits.
Yeah.
Because like just having mindset coaching, like it's like mindset is tossed around a lot. Like what I mean by mindset is it's a collection of behaviors that allow you to achieve more. Like it's kind of simple. So it's not like everyone's got a mindset, just might not be good or bad.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, that's why it's 3 parts, not just mind, it's body, but it's also like vision. Because you need the vision as well to create propulsion and direction. You can have all this pent up energy, but it goes nowhere, then it's just going to hurt you. If you've got, those combination, you've got the energy, the momentum, you've got the direction, pushes you forward, has space for you to move towards. But then you also got like the tools to overcome obstacles. Like that's kind of my whole philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What does success mean to you, Koree? That's something I want to ask you.
I talk about this quite a bit lately as well. Success is just pursuing something that you've got in your mind. Like if you're doing something in your mind and it's happening in reality and you feel good about it and you somewhat can see it impacting people, I think that's success. Doesn't matter if it's a business, finance, if it's in the gym, if it's being like a good father, a good mother, like it's are you living life on your terms? And like that's why like personal development's not just for like entrepreneurs online trying to make 6 figures in 90 days. Like it can be for anyone. Like, and I think especially like we kind of social media teaches you that you should like 9 to 5s are shit and things like that. I don't think so. Like even that you should, like DeMartini says, anytime you're saying should, have to, need to, you're living and subordinating your values in terms of other people's. As soon as you do that, you're putting yourself down, and then it's just this constant cycle. But like, yeah, it's important to have that understanding.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. And for yourself, Koree, like I like to ask people who come on the show, if there's someone in your life that's been like a big inspiration for you, and like you've already spoken about a couple of people, like you talked about, Tony Robbins, Cardone, like DeMartini and things like that. Like, but is there someone else like that you would look to, whether it's like a particular mentor or a guy we have a shared mentor?
Moses. I actually just interviewed him.
You did?
Yeah, that was coming out this week, but then I had another guy interviewed who was doing a book launch, and I was like, I don't know what to do.
Okay, yeah, like, you got yourself to. It's like, no, you gotta wait.
It's the right thing to do, helping him out. Obviously Moses introduced me to NLP and became an NLP practitioner. So he saw again vision. He had that vision in me that I didn't have. So anyone listening, go check out Moses.
Yeah, Moses is the man, and brought us together too.
Yeah, exactly.
We went beyond each other's shows.
100%. Yeah, this is a ripple effect.
Yeah,
like if Moses, this wouldn't exist probably.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Moses, I know for me anyway, it wouldn't. So it's pretty crazy. But in terms of like other mentors, I'm a massive science nerd. Einstein, loved all this stuff. Like read his biography heaps of times. Nikola Tesla, all these guys kind of just like creating new paradigms. I think at my essence, I'm a rebel, and I'm aware of paradigms that are currently happening, and I want to help shift into new paradigms. That's kind of like my calling, and I really feel inspired by like Einstein, Nikola Tesla, who at the time just created things that like nothing would exist without Nikola Tesla. Like he did the whole AC when he was versing, the light bulb man.
The light bulb man.
Who else? Another really important guy for giving me this like connectiveness of understanding, like holistic view, is Yuval Noah Harari. He's author of *Sapiens*, historian, philosopher.
Oh yeah.
Probably my favorite book ever read. If you want like a good understanding of economy, religion, psychology, human behavior, how they all interplay, like absolutely amazing. His influenced the way I view the world big time. Yeah, fantastic.
Well, you kind of anticipated my next question, was if there's a book you'd recommend. So besides *Sapiens*,
*Sapiens*,
is there one that's really I guess the best way to ask it is like one that's had like an impact on your life, I would say, like or that's really stood out for you that you'd recommend to others.
Yeah, You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza was pretty crazy too. Stuff I already knew, but he stringed it in a way that just like catapulted my view on things. You Are the Placebo is the idea that there's a placebo that you can take a pill and you're going to get positive effects. There's also the nocebo, which is, again, you can assume something's going to happen negatively and that will happen like with a higher probability than if it didn't. And so like the book is about that. Again, paradigm shifting is probably why I like it. Could be wrong, but like as of right now, it makes sense. And I do think there's probably an agenda withholding that idea. But like even in medical situations, like there's sham surgeries that work better than having a proper surgery. Like arthritis is, I'm going to go on a tangent. Arthritis one, like they get scraped. Everyone's known for ages. You start looking into it and it's like, hang on, that's just an idea that like they thought would work, but like against a placebo showed no difference. And so like the idea, overarching idea that the mind can, or whatever it is, mind, God, universal energy can alter reality in whatever way possible without an external substance, like that blows my mind. And so You Are the Placebo, he takes that idea, that fundamental idea, and applies it into, upregulating yourself, healing yourself through meditations, but also alluding to the fact that your thoughts do in fact create new synapses. Like every time you have a thought, there's neurons associated with that which release chemical cascade of feelings that we feel physiologically. And if you live in that state long enough, it creates it's like water dropping down and carving into a hill. It erodes and creates a stronger channel. It like on a cell level, it myelinates the sheath of the neurons so that they can conduct electricity faster, so it becomes more efficient. And so like this is all happening at like a cellular level, like the micro. And he kind of saying that like at that deep depth of a level, like you can impact it. And I guess that's like anyone that's changed the world, like Steve Jobs comes to mind. They called him the reality bender, right? I'll probably say that wrong, but like he would bend reality. He would have such a strong certainty about the outcome of what he wanted that everyone would bend around him. And he's like a true testament to, he even said, I want to make a dent in the universe. And like, that's Joe Dispenza's more woo-woo version of that. But like, he is like the physical representation of taking like something that didn't exist, forcing it into reality. And like any obstacles didn't matter because he was so certain. And like, that's taking it to that extreme level. But it's like, imagine having that certainty that you can create something. You're either going to end up in like the psych ward or a billionaire. Because, I think it takes a level of delusion for sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
But that's why I like the You Are the Placebo book.
Yeah, okay.
Crazy book.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's like you said, a podcast episode in itself.
Yeah, 100%.
We are unfortunately coming to the end of our time together, Koree. But before we wrap it up, man, how can people find you if they want to learn more about yourself and about your business as well?
Yeah. I'm just on my podcast, High Performance Management, is just on YouTube, High Performance Management Podcast. I'm just Koree Davies, spelled weird, Koreee. It's like Korea, but with an E, not a dictatorship. Just on Instagram, you've got my link in there. Chuck us a DM,
It's great. And we'll have all those links in the bio of this episode. But Koree, really appreciate you coming along. I'm glad we got the chance to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Yeah,
and I hope you'll come on again in future because we can have more awesome chats.
Like might have to do a 2-person show.
Honestly, I was
just go.
Yeah, I think so. Like it'd be good. And like I think like having. Having a good chemistry with someone makes the conversation so 100%. Easier. So
I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share my crazy ideas. So thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Koree.